if anybody by chance sees this on a repeat, you're just gonna have to imagine what was said.
Hello and welcome to the Fortnightly Frontier. This is the bi-weekly show where we talk about very interesting topics about Star Citizen. This fortnight, we're going over the consequences that are coming with the latest iCache and full persistence, what that is going to mean for your gameplay style and how that's going to impact your decisions and choices in the verse upcoming. So it's kind of a really interesting topic as there's going to be massive consequences. No longer will you be able to just spawn your ship fully fueled, take off, and not worry about what happens to it. So we have, as always, we've got Myre and Darjanator. Gentlemen, how are you doing this fortnight?
I'm doing quite well. How about you, Myre?
Okay.
Just okay.
Yeah, I'm doing okay. And yes, I think it's going to be a really interesting few quarters, right? Like end of this year, we're not seeing any of it, but I believe that the tentative date for all of this to start off is on at the end of Q2, right? Like with iCache.
Yes, well, whenever that comes in, yes.
Yeah.
But before we start on that, we are joined by the one and only Stim Citizen, who has actually been on the show once before. But that doesn't mean that he should not introduce himself, so...
All right, so I'm Stim Citizen. Thank you guys for having me on the show. It's awesome to be back again. I really enjoyed the last time. It was great chat and good, sort of healthy theory crafting and trying to put together what, as you said, spitball, Myre, try and figure out what our future is going to look like as we play through Star Citizen. Because right now, we have so much gameplay, but we really need to figure out how things are going to work in the future. So that's what we're here to do today. As far as who am I and where I come from, I produce and co-host the Yacht Club Bar Citizens that are done every week, Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, over on Yacht Club BC. We've been doing podcasts. We're now at our 86th podcast next week. So nice. Once a week, it's weird, man. It's coming up on 2 years. It's absolutely amazing. So it's been a wild ride. Come and check it out. We go through all the weekly news that's happened with Star Citizen. We also really feature community content. Whether it's machinima, screenshots, 3D printing, some fun models and things that people are doing. Otherwise, it's really just about hanging out, talking about what's going on Star Citizen, and sharing some nerdy chat with some like-minded friends about a topic and hobby that we all love, which is Star Citizen. So come and check it out on Wednesdays.
Awesome. So I feel like that hissing again, Darsh.
Not my fault. I can barely hear you right now, so it's not.
It was hissing when Stim was talking too.
Something else is activating Discord, and I don't know what. So I'm gonna.
Has that fixed it?
I'm just gonna mute myself when I'm not speaking.
Okay, perfect. So Darsh fixed it. Nice. But yeah, so like this whole I think it's gonna like bring about a whole like paradigm shift in how people play the game. I just wonder if it's going to be so extreme that you'll have people really kind of just saying, no, I'm not gonna play the game anymore until you fix this and make it how it was before, because it's going to be a different game.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a different game. The example that Darsh sort of brought up as we were chatting a little bit about it before the show was when it comes to fuel. I mean, right now we spawn a ship, and it's a brand new ship. Whether the art assets make it look lived in or not, it's brand new.
Yeah,
it hasn't been spawned before. It has no artifacts. It doesn't have any footprints or dust from your previous flight hanging around in it, and it's fully and utterly fueled. And you take it off and you go fly somewhere. And even if you log out, mid-flight and you sort of come back, I mean, they've got some persistence there, but if you crash it, all you have to do is reclaim it. You might even pay a little bit to expedite it, but it comes fully fueled again. And when you're flying an 890 jump, and that's, what is that, Dar? 60 grand to refuel?
Yeah, it's I think I know what's wrong with this thing. Hold up. Okay, is this better?
Testing. I guess. Yeah.
Testing. Okay. I'll keep my headphones on just to make sure it's not like bleed through my speakers.
Yeah, Discord decided to use the sample input, so the gate wasn't applying.
Oh.
Interesting. All right. But yeah.
So your natural Slytherin hiss that's just always pervasive wasn't being gated out?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
But yeah. But I hate to feel like maybe perhaps I started off on a maybe perhaps more of a negative foot than usual. But I just feel like it's going to change the game in such a huge way. People are so used to, as Stim says, just reclaiming something once, like, oh no, I've lost the chess piece on my MSR, reclaim the ship, you know, that kind of thing. Like, I can't really, for the life of me, see how they're going to go about putting all that stuff in without really, really over, what's the word again? Like, just going over the economy, basically, and making sure that everything kind of ties in. Because right now, you know, like the price of a bottle of water is 8 UEC and a t-shirt's 1,000. Like, there is no, like, cohesion between any of that stuff.
The
and as a result,
consistency that we are familiar with.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think we have to be careful, you know, because we say that we started off a bit on the negative side. I guess to balance that out, you know, the whole point of consequences is risk and reward. And if we don't have that risk, then, you know, you can't have the highs without the lows.
Yeah.
We won't be able to really have those amazing systemic, interaction points where you escape by the skin of your teeth. You know, you just barely made it out of there, where the blood was pumping, you're having an amazing time. It's something you'll never forget, you and your friends and org mates that you were playing with, and you're bonding over it. We won't have those moments if we don't have things like, oh, wow, I really have to worry about how much fuel's in my 890.
Yeah.
Or, repairing the ship. How much is that going to cost me? Wow, did I really make any money on this mission? Those are the kinds of things.
Yeah, how much does it cost to expedite an 890?
It's not that much. I can't remember exactly.
It's $2,000 for a Carrack.
I think it's 12,000. I'm just. It's not much.
No,
Alpha
definitely.
UEC,
But it does cost 60,000 Alpha UEC to refuel the hydrogen. So when you're dealing with prices like this, it doesn't really make sense to do it properly. You know, the RP way.
Yeah.
And when there's still so many bugs in the game that can claim your ship, and then you have to get it again, it kind of makes people trepidatious when it comes to actually, going along those lines.
I think more of a real world example, though. I mean, the 890 is it helps kind of show that there's a disparity between what the expedite cost is and what the fuel costs are. And it's a good example because it's a bit extreme. It helps kind of illustrate the point. But really, most people are going to be flying around in, freelancers and cutlasses and star runners. And a lot of those ships are not going to see the same price, but you still will, you'll want to paint your ship. You'll want to customize it as you were referring to earlier, Dar. So, what happens when, let's say you've spent 2 hours painting your ship. I mean, I don't know how involved the painting is going to be, but hopefully it can be as involved as people want to take it and have the skill level to be able to do that. Will you be able to ensure your paint job or save like a paint file of how that was done? And so like, if you lose that paint job, are you now spending another 2 hours painting your ship and getting that back and all of the little knickknacks you had on your ship?
I wonder.
Yeah.
Like they've kind of touched upon the idea of different kinds of insurance over your standard hull insurance, weapons insurance, cargo insurance. I don't necessarily know if there's like a contents insurance where you're basically given the ship as it was when they last scanned your ship. So like, you know, when you get a new one, the you know, like the apple you bought from New Babbage is in the same place even though it's a whole new apple.
That would be like ultimate concierge level of
Right.
full coverage insurance. Yeah.
But if there are different levels of insurance, one would only hope, right?
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to scanning, I guess they could just save a snapshot of your ship when the last time you stored it was.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah,
we'd still complain that the bobblehead was a little, 2 inches to the left than it should be when it was. Gosh darn it.
Like some of those iCache things are actually in at the moment, but not at the server level. And we've tested this on the Carrack, where like, you know, items that you place inside it, once you store the ship and then you go to a different server several hours later, you get the Carrack back and all the items are exactly where they should be in the right orientations as well.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So we tested that like a couple months ago, like maybe the day after Chad said that iCache was in, but maybe not in a way people would appreciate. So like maybe what kind of ways could it be in? So on that test, we actually we parked a Dragonfly, made sure it was like, you know, 45 degrees tilted to one place, took a screenshot to make sure that, you know, when we got the ship back, you know, would it be the same way? We also like on the Carrack put a whole bunch of water bottles everywhere. Like we filled the gun racks with guns. In the Pisces, we put a Pisces inside there, and then we put a water bottle inside the Pisces, and then we stored the ship. Several hours later, we went to an Australian server, pulled the Carrack out, and everything was exactly where it was, including the item in the ship in the item. Oh, sorry.
Nice.
Yeah. So it was cool.
Damn. Okay, I wasn't expecting that.
So
Yeah.
at least with the Carrack, it's there, and I imagine that's what iCache is, but on a very small, localized level. But yeah.
The CA in iCache stands for Carrack.
Oh yeah, of course.
All right, but now they just need to. Something they mentioned a while ago was that there's some upgrades to servers coming that will make them be able to crash and recover without a 30k.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, they did mention that.
Like a handoff to another server or whatever, right?
Or a service that remembers what happened and then it seamlessly recovers. Or maybe it is a different server, yeah. So what's next in them implementing like total persistence that doesn't get corrupted by a 30k?
I'll be sad when we lose 30Ks forever.
Really?
No. But somebody
we
had to
never
say it.
will. The thing is, we never will lose 30Ks, but with proper iCache that is able to offload, let's say the snapshot of your ship, of everything, the saved state of every item and component that you have in it, like every couple of minutes, to combat the 30Ks, versus now I'm guessing it only did it when you parked the ship and the station cleaned it up.
So we have actually experienced at least once in gameplay in the past month where we had a 30k, as in we got error 30k, everybody got booted out, and then we all logged back in and we were still in the ship. So maybe perhaps they're working on it in ways, because like we've had things like that happen before. But as for when it does happen, I guess none of us will know. But in terms of like gameplay implications of all this stuff, I feel like once, as Stim says, you know, like you put all this work into making the ship your own, you know, and it's not just as an easy way of going to a station to reload and stuff. That in general, I think that PvP is going to be a lot less, when it's between players, it's going to be a lot less frequent. You're going to see people trying to run more than trying to fight. But in a game like Star Citizen, I mean, like, even though there is PvP, it's a bit more like, I guess, Star Trek, where it's like you see somebody else and you hail them and maybe you help each other out. Not everybody's going to be like that. And in the off chance you find somebody who just wants to kill you, you're going to have to run away. So I think what we're going to see as a community is a more skittish community in general. Just because nobody wants to lose their carrick that they've put all their like clothes in, because when that carrick blows up, they're going to have to restock every single like underpants drawer again, you know?
Another thing that's gonna also exacerbate that is ship names and serial numbers, which I believe are going to be what it shows up when a ship shows up on your radar.
Okay.
It's not going to be the player name. You're going to have to do a detailed scan of the ship to find out who's on it. And if a certain player that is a dick and just out there to PvP, whether that's legit or not, but someone who with your playstyle you wanted to avoid, you won't know, because they'll certainly have more than one ship, right? So you'll have to start figuring out like which ships does this person own, like who do I have to avoid.
It's certainly going to be a more skittish universe. What do you think, Stim? How are you going to play the game when the stakes are so much higher?
Yeah. It's going to be about sticking together as friends. I've been saying from the beginning that my gameplay style is probably going to be a couple of nights a week, maybe 3 nights a week, doing probably solo gameplay or with a friend or two that happens to be in the same system. Sort of midweek, running a few missions, just kind of making money. So I expect it to be mainly solo during the week in the evenings after work kind of thing. Yeah. And then on the weekend, running a major operation. So that might take a couple of hours of planning in the middle of the week and then getting a bunch of people together. And then we do something big, where it's, 4 to 8 hour kind of op, on a weekend, most weekends. And, that kind of helps frame where, like the timing and how the consequences will pan out, because it's not just the time that's going to happen, because I'll only maybe have a couple of hours or 2 or 3 hours on a weekday, but won't be able to travel from system to system. But where am I going to do that? Am I going to do that in some low security area? Probably not. It's probably going to be very high sec. It's probably going to be, because if I'm trying to make money or working that time, I won't be able to deal with somebody blockading me or getting in the way of that. That time is about, making money or doing whatever it is. So the consequences, I'll be playing very, very safe when I have short periods of time to play.
Right.
When it is a large full scale thing, it opens up to more enjoyable time where you can spend time and you're prepared to have that risk and reward. Whereas you don't really want a lot of risk and reward if you're playing for a very short period of time. So, I see a lot of people like Joran, for example, one of my co-hosts on the Yacht Club. He's talking about having an alt, right? And maybe alt gameplay becomes a big thing. And his main character, because of the fact that, he's risk averse, just by the nature of who he is, plus the fact that, people like to stream snipe when he does shenanigans in his other shows, just like you guys have when you do your streaming. If you're a known personality and if you're risk averse, you probably will not be going out of high security space. Have you guys seen Lucky Number 11?
Yeah.
And the rabbi and the the two mob bosses, living in their ivory towers. I think that's going to be some gameplay for some people. Others will use alts to get around that.
It's a good point with the alts, honestly. Like, because that gives. So basically, with an alt, you can have your character that's being on the up and up and not like killing people on sight. But then if that character is directly funding like somebody else who is like just, always killing people and it's like a super pirate or whatever like that, then I don't know. Like, it kind of feels like you're just basically like using a loophole to do stuff that should be punishing you, but you're not because you can be a normal player afterwards. But
Yeah.
Yeah, but some people, that is the height of that is actually what organized crime is, isn't it?
I
Yeah,
suppose
kind
you're
of.
not
get
wrong.
to Yeah, you get to get away with all the bad shit that you do by posing to be a good.
Yeah. So I mean,
Yeah.
I guess a question, at least for the for the near future of the game, is that like, so when iCache comes out, it'll allow us to have all these mechanics that increase the risk of the game. But they haven't necessarily talked about like what the reward of the game is going to be. I mean, like, if they're all of a sudden like increasing the difficulty level of like just retaining your stuff, what is the upside of that?
Mm.
The upside of retaining your stuff?
Well, no, I mean, not the upside of retaining your stuff, but like what? So right now, let's pretend things are level, like in terms of like risk and reward. Like you have a mission to do a box mission or whatever. A player could come and blow you up. It's you get paid, you don't get paid, whatever. But now they're saying do a box mission. Somebody else may have the same mission and kill you. You might lose all the stuff in your ship and including the stuff on your body, and you basically spawn naked with less stuff and a lower like reputation from like the quest giver. So like, where is the reward for you to have to go out into that place to like risk your life?
I would say
Mhm.
our reward right now would be a persistent habitation for you, like a hangar or an outpost that you could claim for yourself,
To balance
that
out the
ties
risk.
in to tie into this persistent aspect of the game, where
Right.
that persists. That's something you get to call home and that you return to and add every time you come back. That would be a benefit derived from the same persistence system.
So
It's not directly related to your example, for instance, like the
right.
delivery mission, but I think it kind of is.
I agree because what you're saying is that like using the same stuff, iCache will have a whole new system that will help to balance out the risks, so you aren't just losing everything. You have a bank where things are kept, so it's not all for nothing, essentially.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think in the short term, because we won't have player housing, in the very short term, the box mission or the mission sort of concept is really quite timely. And that risk is either going to be the easiest lever that they have for reward is more credits, right? Just earning more. But then as time goes on, the medium and the long term, we'll see things like the reputation system advance, and it may be that first of all you'll build up a reputation for getting the cargo there. So you build up with whatever the cargo guild or whatever the faction is, or the mission giver that you're working for. You'll build up reputation with them. If it is a more dangerous mission, you will get better reputation, or reputation with a specific mission giver that is a conduit towards better reward.
Right.
So they've got those two sort of currencies. I mean, really, Alpha UEC or UEC is one currency, and then reputation is another form of currency. And we were talking about this yesterday on the captain's table. It really gives you the opportunity, and it's a dynamic form, right? It's not just one type, but it's with different
organizations.
It's with different
organizations, yeah. And if when you gain it with one organization, you may lose it with another. It's like a more like a 2-dimensional or even 3-dimensional thing, not just more or less.
Yeah.
Like you have with money. And because we were also mentioned that there are some places where you can't get in with just money. You need the other form of currency, even if you're space poor or space broke. But you have the reputation. Maybe you'll get a drink because people know you, or you'll be able to live somewhere for free because people know you, even though you can't actually afford the hard cash for it.
Right.
And that is actually what we're getting in 312, that persistent reputation.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I guess you could call a consequence, a positive and maybe sometimes negative if you keep failing a mission consequence, right? So
Yeah.
I look forward to what that could possibly bring for us, just in terms of like, in any game that's out there that has reputation systems, you have different reputation levels. And at those levels, you get access to different things. Maybe things could be cheaper. Maybe they have, like items or skins that you wouldn't be able to access otherwise. So I think that in and of itself would be just cool to be able to then like divvy up the community into these, let's say like Darj really likes to do box delivery missions, right? And like he's done a whole bunch of those, and then like he's like leveled up, and like now he has access to even like more lucrative, more dangerous box missions.
Boxes.
Yeah, and then like let's say after 1,000 box missions, he has now like a full-on Kovalex uniform and a Kovalex skin for his freelancer, and nobody else can get that skin without putting in that much time and effort into the game. I think what iCache and stuff will allow the game to finally have is for that feeling of accomplishment and achievement for doing stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, pride and accomplishment.
I'll be pushing for Kovalex partner pretty quickly as best I
can. You joke, but I want that. Kovalex, hit me up.
Yeah.
What I was thinking though is, how soon do you think until we have a player in the verse that has intentionally completely tanked the reputation with every party, so nobody wants to talk to them anymore?
Somebody will try it, but we'll see what happens.
So definitely,
right?
Yeah. Or will it be like a sort of like a teeter-totter balance that if you get, no matter what you do, you can't get on the bad terms with somebody because you already are at such bad terms with somebody else that they like you because of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That would take some very specific design in a way that failing a mission for one would be positively affecting, the results for another. Like let's take the delivery one. How could they work it out so that if you lose your ship and your cargo is destroyed that you were carrying for Kovalex, that Shindesu Mining Corp or whatever decides that that's a benefit for them? I can't see it.
I'm guessing it would be only in terms of rival companies, somebody vying for the same market. So if you somehow disrupt another company's influence, the others are able to get in on that pie.
Yeah, I mean, we're going super metagame here, but like, I think that it might have to be for delivery missions in particular, maybe perhaps a bit more specific than that, Otherwise, it's like, oh, you failed the mission. These guys now think you're incompetent, and so do their rivals. I think instead, like, if it's a mission where like they give you and they entrust with you a whole bunch of like really expensive stuff, if you were just to like go somewhere else instead, maybe even be delivered a counter mission from the rivals saying deliver it here instead. That could work, I guess, for reputation. But just like straight up failing something intentionally may not necessarily work in that kind of way. But I look forward to seeing what they do with it, because like it's such an open thing, like for us to finally start to have in the game. And Zantulo in chat talks about going back to like how people will play the game. They think that they say, I think extortion will be a huge part of pirating. It's already getting pretty popular in the PU right now. I think extortion is something that you can do in the PU right now, of course, but I don't see how like having your life be more precious is going to make that work. And I know that sounds counterintuitive because, like, of course, if a pirate with big guns says stand and deliver, if you stand to lose everything, why not deliver? Other games out there have kind of proven that just doesn't happen. Like games like DayZ, like when that came out, people would like go into the wilds, come out like a man and like with Wookiee outfits and like guns and stuff, and come across like a new player with like who has some stuff, and they say, hey, okay, put your hands up. 9 times out of 10, instead of putting their hands up, they'll try and kill themselves on you in the small chance that they'll take your stuff instead. You know, like what
Yeah,
how do you,
'cause
yeah.
it's the balance of risk and reward. You know, I just created this character. I'm in it maybe 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
If there's a chance I could box out this person that's got, 24 hours worth of gear, I'm going to give it a go.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
but,
mean,
but that example just is like an established player versus a new player. What about an established player that has, for instance, has been hauling for years now?
Right.
And they have a caterpillar full of hadonite,
Mm-hmm.
like the most extreme example, a caterpillar full of hadonite.
Right.
It's
And-
not their entire wealth that they get to lose.
Okay.
You know, that's how modern experienced player. But they get attacked by a pirate. They are in a different position than a new player that has nothing to lose.
That is very true. So I suppose as a pirate, you definitely have to pick your targets, you know? It's like being a fisherman in real life, you know? Like you got to make sure that, you know, your the fish is a certain size, you know?
Yeah.
Otherwise it's catch and release, you know?
is the captain going to say, I come onto the ship and just hold while I reach under the table here and activate the self-destruct?
Right.
You know, so I think it's going to boil down to how well CIG does the character interaction and the immersion. So if you remember from the original design document, the way that Chris Roberts described how you'd create your character would be, not just, in verse, but in lore. So you'd walk up to, the first thing you'd do is walk up to a bunch of bathroom stalls, and you'd pick the gender identity that you resonate with, and you'd go into that stall, and that's picking your gender. Then you'd come out and you'd look in a mirror, and you'd effectively, like the TikTok kind of, wipe yourself a new color eyes, wipe yourself a new beard, wipe yourself a new hairdo. It's so good. And that's kind of how you would build your character.
Okay.
Right?
He's talking about the Fallout 4 character creator, basically.
Oh, that
Yeah.
one. Yeah, that's something I do recognize.
Right.
Yes. So you'd end up in verse creating who you are, and then I think the tutorial will probably work out a little bit like that as well. So as you go through, you're already kind of being put into an almost role-playing component, even though a lot of people are like, I'll never role play, where you kind of are as you go through that creation. And so you're kind of, it sets the tone for your interaction with Star Citizen and that level of immersion and how you're going to communicate with people. And if they can translate all the little things in Star Citizen into those nuances and make it so that you want to personalize absolutely everything. I mean, when we do Yacht Club shenanigans and we talk about, and we see the screenshots that people submit to the Discord, personalization is extremely important to everyone. And so, I joke about having, a Hawaiian bobblehead, in a freelancer up there that, when I turn force reactions makes it move and stuff. But
yeah,
I mean, that is something that people will want to have. They want their Pico co-pilot, dressed up in whatever, fancy duds they can put it in, let alone themselves.
Pico pilot.
Pico pilot, yes.
Pico
We're
pilot.
efficient on this show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It's good to be in the know. So, the immersion level and how attached you are to your character and your character's bloodline, perhaps, because we're talking about, picking your heir. And if you go into your backstory, and if you're encouraged to go into your backstory and maybe you're 2 or 3 characters in, and now all of a sudden you've got a lineage that you've kind of gone through. And so how attached are you to that? So, I mean, it's hard to come up with what are these examples that's going to make it immersive. And I think that, if we had somebody like Paul Shelley on right now that would kind of go through the lore, whenever I have a chance to chat with him or be on one of his shows, you get the feeling, he kind of explains some of the lore and how some of the things tie in. And like we learned yesterday on the show, something to the effect that, Darsh helped me out here, where we were talking about the belligerent duck.
Yeah.
And
right. So that it's not just the people that have a reputation, but the ship also has it.
That's right.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So
Yeah,
everything you have
a named
to be lore.
named ship that you personalize.
Mhm.
That's that maybe that is seen in a lot of battles, surviving a lot of battles or raids, or seen to do a lot of humanitarian work, that ship itself is going to start getting recognized, hopefully not just by the players, but also by NPCs.
I think that's something that happens in Really Dangerous. Like, because in ED, you are not really the space person. You are the ship. And so, like, if you do a lot of criminal activity in a ship, then it gets impounded for a long ass time, but you can still use your other ships. So, like,
Sure.
Yeah. But I like the idea of in Star Citizen having separate reputations for, like, the player as an individual and a ship and its crew. And I can just imagine now, like, some people doing a whole bunch of shenanigans in a really, like, nice ship that people want, like the MSR, and then selling it to some unsuspecting schmuck. They fly it and then they get blown up because they didn't realize.
People recognize that serial number.
Exactly.
Right. Or maybe that ship being more expensive because that was the ship that did the Kessel run in 12 parsecs. It having that mystique to that ship. That was the ship that Myre, that was the rover that Myre won the Hurston Hurtlocker in, or something like that. Like
Almost.
Sorry, man, too soon. so it could give it more value, and it could definitely give it more character. And getting back to people want to paint their ships and make it really interesting.
Yeah.
I'd like to see the like death of a spaceman and those consequences come in a way that is going to just add positivity to the game. And I'll kind of leave off with that for you guys.
Right.
Deep thought, I know.
It could, yeah. Like
Captain Obvious, more like.
But it would be very interesting to go back a bit. To be very interesting to see if the ships, once their legal and physical ownership gets separated from each other, so you can actually sell or give a ship to somebody else, another player in the verse. So it would be interesting if you could track that ship's progress,
right,
in verse. Like if it continues on its old path but with a new crew.
So basically,
like in Star Wars,
yeah,
when Han Solo died, but Rey took over. It's still the Millennium Falcon, a very famous
spoilers,
Whitey.
From like 3 years ago.
or more.
Yeah. No, yeah,
But
like having a ship retain its legend.
Is a spoiler anymore.
Yeah, having a ship retain its legend like that would be amazing. And I think that it'll be more, because the game is so big, because they're going for a single shard, and so it's a worldwide thing and not like small local community things. I think that having a ship's legend is going to be more of a thing that, depending on how the game works, because we don't really know, like, is it going to be that there's going to be enough content in SC that I choose to only play in the stand-in system when all other systems are out? So, like, basically I hang out and I play with these guys in the stand-in system and everybody knows each other, even if we're, like, multiple orgs. But I think that what will be cool is that, like, with a big org that has all these bigger ships, like, let's not say Test Squadron because that's too big, but let's say, like, just something smaller that has, like, maybe 3 Idrises or something like that. That org...
Like Redshift?
Maybe. But, like, let's say that org has 3 Idrises, right? So, like, between 50 to 100 people in that org, they have 3 of these big ships, and these ships are named X, Y, and Z. The legend of that ship and who's flying it and that kind of thing will be a lot more of an interesting thing to follow. And, yeah, hopefully we'll see, that kind of thing happening where, people will recognize that ship, not just from the people flying it, but also because of itself.
What about the legend of the Aurora named XXX _ flying shite _ XXX? I want to know about that one.
Everybody knows that ship.
Everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
When it comes to like the reputation system and how you'll be able to join different factions, like joining the Nine Tails, or maybe you end up getting into combat with someone that is the leader of the Nine Tails, or a particularly well-known member of the Nine Tails that is gruesome in the way they kill their people they take. So maybe they take the cargo, but they always kill them, and they don't just kill them, they stack death them, it's immediately.
But they dress really fly.
there. It sounds awesome. And then, and then how that would play into
Tuxedo Bandits.
And how that would play into like the Nemesis system.
Okay.
So you meet someone, you have a battle with them, you both end up limping away, let's say, but that NPC is going to remember you, and if you encounter them again, they're going to remember you. Remember, we had this with
Shadow of Mordor.
So, the reward and the risk is going to be so much more interesting if that immersion comes through, that your character has imprinted on other NPCs out there, and other NPCs have feelings towards your character. And does that translate into your bloodline, your heirs, as they go down as well? Like it's so cool.
They go, I seen you before. It's the son of a Stim. I'll get you.
I knew your father.
Yeah.
He too was a yellow-bellied bastard.
He gave me this scar.
That's right.
But yeah.
Another thing that we also touched last night on the Captain's Table, but this is actually a very good question, is will you have the ability to just perform a clean slate?
So I think that clean slating might happen, but it's very likely going to be something that you have to pay a lot of in-game money for. Yeah. So because of like negative karma and stuff like that with certain factions, clean slating might not necessarily be. I mean, like having a permanent record of like just people hating you might not necessarily be a good thing. But it does sound, just from the wording of this new system we're getting in 3.12, that negative reputation is something that slowly heals over time. But maybe also positive reputation might also decay over time as well. Because they did say that if you keep failing missions with like, quest givers, that for a while they won't give you missions. But that must mean that they'll forgive you eventually.
I wouldn't.
I wonder. Yeah.
No, but it could cost a bit, but just to get a new identity in lore, to hire somebody to hack the census bureau or whatever it is, to create a new identity for you, and then have your face completely changed at a plastic surgeon. So that would kind of start you off on a clean slate, I guess.
I could see that happening. Because like changing your face is already something that's set within the game. Morrow talks about it in that one briefing room thing. And I could see it happening as something you could do per faction, as a thing you could do, but would be very expensive and like a risk, or like something, again, with consequences. You lose all that progress with that group because they think you're somebody else. There's a question in chat from Canuck, who asks, will the game differentiate between failing a mission because you tossed the package on purpose, crashed due to high winds, or were murdered at an outpost? I mean, if I could answer first, I think the game doesn't necessarily have to. A fail is a fail, and if you fail them, then there's only so many times until like they force choke you. It's kind of like you have to be prepared to not fail.
I wonder if there will also be Japanese organizations.
Ninetales is Japanese.
Is there?
Yeah.
Do you think that there's under those Ninetale colored gloves are hands with missing fingers?
Missing fingers? You think that they retain that tradition? Like, it'd be very interesting to see, like, you go to, like, right now you can go to Hurston, right? And then you can see, like, Constantine Hurston. It'd be very interesting if you go to Saisei and go to, like, where Misk make their ships, and you find the CEO and he's missing fingers too, because Misk is Japanese as well.
He always wears gloves.
Yeah, but we know that, just for some random lore, we know at least 3 Japanese companies at least started off as Japanese. That is the Ninetales, which is a criminal organization. We know Sakura-Sun, and we know MISC. Sakura-Sun and MISC are both based on the same planet. But we know that the Ninetales must kind of be Japanese, also because, like, they all have Japanese names. If you ever like target one of the pirates, they have like Japanese surnames most of the time.
Yeah, I have, but it's always so weird when you see someone called like Patrick Yamamoto or something like that.
Chucky Shimura. Yeah, like it's weird.
It's maybe. I wonder if that's actually intentional, and you've got like such a sort of fusion or influence of Western cultures on the Japanese one, so they started mixing the names, or if it's just that their random name generator kind of doesn't have the proper instructions.
I think it's both. We're so far in the future. I mean, 900 years that like you'd imagine that like names and stuff would have homogenized a tiny bit, you know? Like I mean,
like Takeshi Kovacs.
Yeah. I was gonna say like in Altered Carbon, Takeshi Kovacs is like a Japanese name and a Russian name. No,
Slavic. It means Smith.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah. It's cool because we want to see the names obviously kind of homogenized to the point where there's that mixture and that fusion of what's going on, but we also want those separate sort of cultures, and we want things like, you know, Fortuna Day, which is you know, obviously St. Patrick's Day. Like, we want to keep a lot of those cultures that we have so that we can resonate with different aspects of the game. Getting back to Canuck's sort of question, I thought it was a really well-worded question, giving, you know, 3 real different reasons as to why you failed that mission.
Yeah.
And I'd like to think that what happened would matter.
Okay.
I kind of agree with you, Myre, to the point where I don't think it will, or at least it's much more complex.
If I was a quest
to be
giver,
tracked.
if I was a quest giver, I wouldn't care. But
yeah.
Would you, as a quest giver, care about the client's name? I'm not talking about like whether they're obviously from a different racial background, but if someone walked up to you with a name like
Butt Slave, I would
something like that. Yeah,
probably not. I'd probably like start them off really low. And then we'll see, you know, we'll see.
See consequences. Yeah. So that's also something that I can't wait to be implemented, like actual characters, because right now we don't have characters. We have the avatars but not actual characters with their own background, with their actual proper name, and abode and stuff like that.
Well, your ISI handle kind of is your name. Not your handle, but your
kinda. Yeah, I guess. But you know, I want actual a name that will be indistinguishable from an NPC. You know, fits into the lore.
Yeah.
Do you think we're getting like a display name like that? That's going to happen. I thought our display name was what we chose. So, you know, if you're Darjanator in there, I mean, a lot of people have chosen names. I've got a buddy that chose like Matt Black. You know,
the issue is you can't use several words. They have to be like underscore or hyphenated and stuff like that. So it's not a first, middle, last name basis for a display name.
So some background for the listeners. So there are 3 names that CIG asks you to make when you get the game. Your login username, which is just like to log in. It could be anything. Then you have your display name and your community moniker. Your community moniker is what people on Spectrum will see, and your display name is what people in game should see. I think the question really is, like, once you make your character, is that going to be a separate name, and then they will then just inherit whatever like name you want to have? It's a good question, because like, what if you know, like, have a character that has the name like I don't know, like Inigo Montoya or something like that, right? And the verse knows of Inigo Montoya, you know, like, oh wow, this guy Inigo Montoya, he's like the best, right? He's amazing. And then, you know, like, he fights in an Idris battle and he dies and he real deaths, and then like Inigo Montoya is dead. Now it's you know, Gerald Montoya, whatever. And what if now somebody else can now make a new character called Inigo Montoya and just like steal that person's name because they're now dead?
Yeah, but I don't think display names should be unique.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Just because, you know, in real life you have lots of people with the same name. I actually am not one of those people.
Okay.
Because there's 21 people with my last name, and I'm the only one with my first name. So on the planet, I am the only one with my given name.
Me too.
Probably, yeah. But you have several. You have so many names.
I do. I've got 9 middle names, but like if you choose first name and second name, I'm still unique because my grandfather created this name.
Oh,
yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
But like we are exceptions.
Yeah.
There's millions of John Smiths.
Mm-hmm.
John's Smith. Is that how you pluralize it? Yeah, I think it is.
Smeeds.
Smeeds, yeah. There should be nothing to prevent you from having a display name that's identical to another one.
Yeah, I mean,
but just like ships have names and serial numbers, people will have to have display names
and citizen numbers.
I guess citizen number,
or
citizen the community number, moniker
that'll be
is
unique, right? Yeah, but like ship names should not need to be unique because that's how we're going to end up having a XXX _# spanky banks or something like that, on either side.
So CIG for that, they've kind of like made a bit of a compromise. So if you buy a Drake Cutlass, you can have a Rocinante, you can have a Rocinante, you can have a Rocinante. But if you buy a 600i, there can only be one Rocinante. So it's a manufacturer specific thing for names.
It's a chassis specific thing.
Right.
Yeah.
For a specific
but even then with the 600i, like I have one 600i that I get to register a special name with, and then I have another one which is just regular
for now.
True for now. Yeah, I guess we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, because they've already said that in the most recent monthly report, they've said that they've done work to allow not only for us to name our ships, and if you look at ships now, you might notice that certain ships now have floodlights where they didn't, and that's to highlight your ship's name. And for certain ships that are already out there, like the Starfarer, for instance, that floodlight, when you buy it, like the Invictus skin, like highlights the Invictus logo and stuff like that. So I can only imagine that's for your ship's name in the future. But on that same paragraph, they talk about they've managed to find a way to retroactively add serial numbers and stuff to ships that you have that you didn't necessarily buy with a serial number. Because if you remember, only things like the Eclipse and other things like that have unique serial numbers, at least that you know of when you bought it as a thing. But
that's part of their system where if you're a pirate and you steal a ship, you're going to hijack or change the registration number on that ship.
You're going to have to, otherwise it's going to be hot. Yeah.
And that's going to have to be either part of the avionics or a separate component itself. Like in the game Independence War 2, there's a mission where you have to take one of your ships and replace the IFF module, like Identify Friend and Foe module. Which is basically your transponder with identity. So other ships, when you are highlighted on their radars, immediately know whether you are aligned with them or not.
Right. I mean, I think the most elegant solution there is again what Esther in chat says, which is that, and I feel the same way too, which is just allow free naming, allow anybody to name yourself whatever, but because you have the name and you have your registration number, that way you have a unique item. Some MMOs do that. Not all of them. In World of Warcraft, there can only be one Myre in a server, and then they've seen X Myre, XX, and that kind of thing. But in others, everybody can be Myre, but then you have like a weird brackets and a number inside, which is kind of like not the most immersive thing, but in SC, you could just hide the rest of it. What that would cause, though, is a lot of impersonation. That you'd see it,
and then you'd have to do a deep scan to get to the serial number to figure out whether it's that
specific person
XXX _flying shite _XXX, or if it's an impersonator.
Exactly. XXX flying shite XX official. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I really like the concept that you mentioned there, Darj, with the black box that you have in the ship that's your transponder that has an identity.
Yeah.
And I could see CIG having both that as well as the registration number on the hull. And so, you might scan someone that is spoofing their black box, whatever the transponder, to show up as something. And then if they came up for a closer look, they'd see the actual registration number on the hull.
Yeah.
I could see that being part. So you have a bit of an e-war kind of gameplay tied into closer investigation.
It's not unprecedented.
Yeah, if there's
even in Star Citizen, because you have like ODC flight suits and you have Mobby glasses. You know, the knockoff items that are banned.
Yeah.
So it may as well be that impersonating another ship is an offense.
Quite likely if you're like deep scanned and that kind of thing. But if there's one thing that CIG isn't afraid of doing, it's being overly complicated. Like just look at what we've seen for like for smelting, or like what is it called now, refinery. It's a bit more like in depth than I thought it was going to be. Like what we're choosing, like one of 5 different kinds of like purification method. Would you want to go and use electrostarolysis, or do you want to use like Dynic sublimation? You know, the choice is going to be like it's weird, but we'll see.
Well, yeah. Well, in that case, I think the choice only matters that one is more expensive but faster, and other way around.
Yeah.
I think the yield in the end is exactly the same.
Right. For now, but it'd be really cool to see.
Could change. Yeah, could change that if you find a refinery that specializes in a certain material, and you choose that specific process, is going to be very expensive, but it yields 10% more.
Yeah.
But this is off topic.
Yeah. Canuck 299 says that it would be like the equivalent of registering a gun before committing a crime, and that you may end up having no serial numbers on like guns and weapons and ships that are flown by pirates. You know, it's kind of like filing that off, filing off your fingerprints and all that as a pirate.
There are a few lore posts out there actually about something called a reg tag or registration tag, and I think that's what we mean by our ships' reg numbers and things like that. Mm-hmm. And how it always works in those stories is that like, well, you can't use a specific ship because like the NPCs know that ship is, you know, marked as somebody else. So I think that CIG already kind of have an idea, at least in lore, and the lore team do talk to design. Lore in SC is basically concept art for design.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But like, so I think we'll see something like it. As for when and how it's going to impact the game, I think it's maybe a bit too soon. But hopefully we can roll as like police and stuff like that, so we can actually like, you know, hunt down stolen ships is like a thing you do. You know how in Elite Dangerous you can like deep scan somebody's ship to see if they've committed a crime before you then attack them? You know, like in SC I could see them going deeper, where like you scan a ship, you see the people on the roster, and then you can do a whole bunch of like really quick like searching and paperwork to know if you can, you know, like just keep digging for crimes before you can then blow it up, like, you know, book them on it.
You're gonna have to get the list of people on board and then do a query with the system to see if it returns any. So, right now,
you're wanted in 5 jurisdictions.
but right now, as soon as you are in a Comare zone, you immediately pop up as red if you have a crime stat.
Yeah.
Right?
For now,
You think that's going to change?
I hope it does. You know, like I was just thinking in terms of like, let's say that being like either a vigilante kind of bounty hunter thing or like a registered policeman in the game. I would hope that with reputation and stuff like that, let's say that I'm a policeman for Crusader, and then somebody comes to Crusader who has done no crimes in Crusader, right? Like, but he is a wanted mass murderer in like the Nick system. It'd be cool if like you could again run their plates, and then it would say that they're wanted in the Nick system, and then you can't just arrest them and then take them in the Crusader system. You'd have to then ferry them to the Nick system where they have to serve their punishment.
Provided you're given the jurisdiction to do so.
Exactly. So like in that case, then maybe a planet could then have like you know how planets now have a list of things that you're not allowed to do, like things that are illegal. If vigilantism is illegal, then you can't do it.
Yeah.
So it'd be really cool if, like, let's say in like the central like spawning worlds of SC, like vigilantism is illegal, so that like it's safer for people to be in there without having to worry about being caught for things that they've done in like Rim worlds.
Yeah, but on the outskirts, you always have to be on the lookout. Like a random citizen could be out there, you know, hunting you down.
Exactly. Yeah. Looking forward to it.
I hope we end up having that, like the combination of bounty hunting and information running, kind of like a private investigator in a way, where you're given a bounty to go and just follow and get data on, find out who their contacts are, who they happen to have flying in their ship. Just generate data. I mean, you had the belligerent duck that was flying this big route, around the different systems, and
people are calling in. So let's go one bigger. This is SC, right? So let's go one bigger than you just being a bounty hunter doing some of that. An org, let's say there's an org focused on bounty hunting. You can then go into different roles. You'll have people who actually go out to like execute to arrest somebody, but you'd also have like information brokers, and all that kind of stuff working together with them in that organization. Maybe like, you can subcontract out to like another org and say, yeah, we can get this guy for you and that kind of thing. Like, sorry, but my mind
you get excited about that.
I do. I love group play. I love emergent group play, and because of it, Star Citizen is a game that's set in the future. You don't have to do much to role play, as Stim said before. Everything is role playing because you're not role playing. You're not like hey man, I'm a troll. You're just like sorry, World of Warcraft reference. Josh is like, what is that? It's a World of Warcraft reference.
They're all Jamaican, the trolls.
But yeah, but
is this something you eat?
Okay, so you're not going zug zug, I'm an orc. You're just going, hey, it's me. I'm a bounty hunter, and you're going to die. So like, that's what I love about this game, is that like it's going to really bring out a lot of like character from people and that kind of thing without having to try so hard to do so. Yeah. But yeah, there's just so much with this topic, and we could go on for a long time. But we know that you have a limited amount of time with us now, Stim. So
I appreciate that. I can go a little bit longer. I just don't to push too hard.
Okay.
I don't know. You kind of put me in the mood already.
To finish?
I'm in the mood. Get ready.
Nah, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. You go for it.
Go ahead. Okay, I was just gonna say. I think that the again, it kind of boils down to that immersion, and we've kind of meandered around all kinds of different sort of topics around how that immersion would look, how that works in the professions.
Yeah.
I've learned a little bit from you on this one whole Myre, and I think one of the big things to understand now is I need to dig into the lore, because the lore tells us so much. As you say, it's like a design document for how future gameplay will be based upon what's happened historically with registration numbers and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's concept art to a degree.
Yeah, it's because I read a lot of those like serialized stories, like especially the one about is it Artemis, the one that one ship that got the AI got in the way, they wanted to have an AI pilot to and then it got lost and everything. A lot of that there was just like throwaway mentions of stuff that happened, but a lot of that just made me think it'd be really cool if we had that in game. But if lore like that is basically concept art for game design, like you say, we may actually just get that.
I'm coining that, by the way.
I wonder if all of those things are there for a reason, and whether if nothing is throwaway, if everything that is every detail that is mentioned in those lore stories is vetted to be actually be able to be released
to a degree. Yeah. But yeah, man. Oh, we got a question from Zantula, who asks, do you guys think the SC servers will be meshed from all areas of the world so that people who primarily speak Russian, Chinese, and Spanish all play together? To a degree. But then if you add, like, let's say that Darj, is playing by himself, right? Then in general, the servers are going to favor, like Eastern European servers or whatever. But if we're in a party together, then it's just basically going to pull me towards him or him towards me, and then that's how it's going to be. It might be that, let's say that there's a rim world or something like that where nobody goes, then like Darj goes there, and then somebody from America goes there, it might be that they put them together in the same place just so that there's only one server running instead of like two. But we don't know yet.
That's a really, really good question.
Yeah, but that's like a question for back-end people, and if we ever get what's his name?
Clive Johnson?
Clive Johnson, that's the one. Yeah, if we ever get Clive Johnson on the show, there's the sort of question we get to ask him. Why am I so bad with names this weekend? Like I had really bad issues remembering people's names yesterday as well.
You gotta revise.
Yeah.
I swear this is like the only community where people know game devs' names by heart. It's weird. And
yeah. So you've got servers. Most MMOs, right, don't get to the level where you've got one shard specifically, like for everybody across multiple languages.
I only have one example for that. Yeah, only one example.
Which one's that?
Albion Online.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's been done before.
Yeah.
And it could be done again. I wonder because it adds a very interesting gameplay potential, but it also can take away because you try and communicate with another ship. Maybe you get into a standoff somewhere and tensions are hot.
Yeah.
And the difference is you might be totally of the same alignment doing the same thing out in the verse, but because you can't interact with one another that you'd expect you would be able to, unless there's some kind of like universal translator that comes in. Now we do have Google's been pretty darn amazing, and there's a lot of if they could somehow leverage like Google Translate into a text kind of concept, and they could get around that aspect.
Yeah, one other game has done that. That's Final Fantasy 14. They have like a what they call like the universal translator, which is basically like you just like click a drop down list of contextual things to say, and then like it'll just say it in every single language depending on what your client is. So like
so it's pretty fun.
In the chat box I can click on the drop down thing, greetings, hello, and then it'll say hello in every single language. But I guess
in every single language.
When I say in every single language, I mean like if your client is, let's say, in Slovenian, then you'll read it as Slovenian. If you
right, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yes, and it's instead of spamming it in like 150 different languages, like
So I started playing a Dungeons and Dragons with a software called Fantasy Grounds.
Okay, yeah.
And you can actually type into the chat, and you can pick the language you're typing in.
Yeah.
And then only the characters that will understand that language will see it translated into English. For them to read it. Otherwise, it'll show up in
Celestial or Underdark or whatever.
And they won't be able to understand it. And so, that is like character to character translation. Now, obviously, it doesn't work with phrasing and the way that people express it, but it would be direct translation. If Star Citizen could do that, that'd be amazing, because we've seen that the Xi'an language has been characterized, if that's the right word for it. It's been put out in written format, and same with the Banu. So there's potential for that.
I don't know if I'd want to take away from that, though. You know what? Because like we have a whole community in Spectrum that have learned from the 2,000 word documents how to speak and write and read Banu. So to have
and
like
that's a reward for taking that energy to do that.
So
reward, we did it, guys.
Exactly, right? So like for us to then just be able to do it automatically would be a bit cheapening for them, I think.
It may actually, they may actually offer their services. So if you have an expedition that goes into Banu or Xi'an space, you could hire them and
hire a linguist.
In-game linguist. Or if you can find a person, maybe in lore or in game, get a blade that translates ship to ship communications. I mean, it would be a way of getting stuff done.
True. I just think the game will be so much deeper if only the people who have learned to read and write Banu could like you'd have to take them to Banu space, and then like if you like, let's say, I mean, how it works right now is if I was to go to like somewhere and discover a relic that no one has seen before, I can just take a screenshot and put it on Spectrum and say, what do you guys think? But yeah, like I suppose.
Mm.
Mm.
I mean, you do it today. I mean, you take a photo of something and send it to post it on Facebook and ask for people for a translation.
Yeah, that's true.
There's a point where artificial limitations like that get in the way of the gameplay.
Right, but it's not an artificial limitation, is it? You're adding like a solution that requires work to something that wasn't artificial. It's a real limitation.
It doesn't have to be that everybody just automatically gets the translation. It could be that you know that.
Okay.
So, it's not that you actually went to the time to learn the actual language, but you went and you trained and you spent some money and you spent some time in verse. You dedicated some time to learning Banu, and then all of a sudden now you can see it through the translation.
Right.
No, I don't like that. I don't like that because that opens the floodgates to artificial skills and leveling up.
That's fair, yeah. And CIG are trying to not do artificial leveling up and stuff like that
With players,
yeah.
Now, with NPCs, sure. You could hire an NPC that knows Banu.
That's true. They better be expensive.
Yeah. And rare.
And I can see that abused so much, you know. So having someone say something specifically in Banu so that your NPC will say something to you as a translation. So Myre says, "Get wrecked."
But I would like, what I would like to do though, because I'm such a troll, bullshit my way through that.
Be nice.
Say that I know Xi'an, so get hired as a translator, and then just
get your rep as a translator just completely. I mean, like, honestly though, in real life people have gone through with like pretending to be good at like sign language and stuff like that, and then be called out. Have you seen like the South African guy?
I saw.
So it's a possibility, right?
Mm-hmm. Then again, we already have ASL in the game. So the character knows what it is. You pick the word from the emote wheel that you want to sign, and your character knows what the symbol is, and he or she signs it. So
yeah.
It's getting there because it is a different language.
There's nothing wrong with CIG just saying, "Hey, let's just remove language barriers," and because that way it leads to better communication, right? I know we can totally disagree. I agree.
Sure. I would agree. But if language barrier is a story element, then it would just remove any potential for failing or overly succeeding on a mission, and that would then adjust your reputation with the alien race.
Sure, but let's talk about, we talk about names being homogenous or have blended, 900 years into the future. And I know every time we talk about 900 years into the future, we got to be careful. But, the assumption is that, it's going to sound a little bit kind of Star Trek Federation side, but that, humans are somewhat homogenous in terms of their ability to communicate with each other. And I'm sure there'll be dialects and all that kind of stuff, but, it's kind of a humanity, Banu, Xi'an, against the Vandul, etc. So if we can make it so that just within the human aspects that maybe we can communicate with one another, that might be a way of dealing with a real world communication issue that we have with one shard. Right. That's what I'm saying. It might work. Otherwise, the age old solution is, have regional shards, have language shards, and then we just start to separate people. And I like how, Myre, you mentioned there's that blended kind of single universe, which is really what it's going to end up being. It's going to be some kind of blended universe, but how many instances of that blend is there going to be because of language?
Right. A lot. I mean, because end of the day,
we've only had trouble on Earth because of language barriers. Like you had an Englishman and a Frenchman. They come together and they want to learn. You want to communicate, and the Englishman points at an apple and says, "Apple," and the Frenchman goes, "Non, c'est une fucking pomme." No, 150 years of war breaks out.
But yeah, end of the day, I mean, like, with the blended universe, like, it's all well and good, and the ability to play with people from other places without having to make a new character is really cool. But people also generally don't necessarily want to play with people they don't understand, because it gets in the way of gameplay to a degree, depending on what you want to do together.
Yep.
If it's to collaborate, very hard. But if it's to fight each other, doesn't matter. So I feel like what will happen is that, like, let's say like you're a Japanese player, you'll mostly, for the most part, only see Japanese players unless they're grouped up with somebody else, in which case either they will move to like you go into like a blended server or whatever for it. So what I feel might happen is that, like, let's say there's a planet or a system where, like, just because it will happen, because it always happens, let's say like the Russian community says, okay, we are going to make our base in the Nick system. I feel like what's going to happen then is that, like, a lot of servers are going to be servicing just that one system. So that if anybody, like, let's say from the States, tries to go there and engages in PvP, they're going to be at a disadvantage because the ping is going to be a Russian ping because of how many Russian, like, clients there are. But with dynamic server meshing, I'm not really sure how that's going to work. You know, ping might just work both ways. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, that's really interesting because, you know.
Yeah, but also I wouldn't want to be sequestered into just a European server, like very specifically in my location, because that just prohibits finding people outside of your bubble.
I mean, that's only how
exactly Myre. Like, I'm Slovenian, you're English.
Yeah.
Previously, even from further away, Stim's American.
Right.
None of us are in the same shard,
right?
Or the same bubble.
Yeah.
This wouldn't have happened if the Star Citizen community wasn't as wide-reaching and as meshed as it is already.
And it's a shame.
Yeah, it totally is.
Or Canadian,
not American. That's an important distinction.
Sorry.
North American.
All good.
You do live on the continent of the Americas.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
But yes, I'm
but that's
sorry.
very interesting because we want the game, the whole point that 90% of the community is NPCs out there. 90% of the characters in the game are going to be NPCs, is to have some control and be able to have the lore work out the way they want it, right? And one of the benefits there is that it takes away from any one faction being able to very easily dominate a market or a condition within the game and change the lore themselves without it being within the mechanics of that CIG has allowed for people to influence lore, like killing a lead bad guy, that kind of thing.
Right.
So it's to mitigate that capability. And all of a sudden, if now you have, let's say a single shard and Russians all work together and say, let's take Nyx.
They're so good at working together in video games that allow it. Just look at Albion. Like there's a guild in Albion online called, I think they're just called the Red Organization. Or the Red Guild. Okay. And because most, I guess it's a Western thing to be slightly more individualistic and stuff, to make smaller groups. And so the smaller groups are just vying for small bits of land and stuff. But Red have everything in the north. And you go up there and it's Russian ping and stuff like that. And like the entire like world up there is red. It's amazing. Or at least it wasn't the alpha. I haven't played for a while.
But if it
Big
took
fan of Red,
all of
are
a sudden
you,
the ping.
Dobry
There we
din.
go. if all of a sudden they get favorable pings, they're going to start winning all the battles that are there. With assuming skill is equal in a duel. If you have a better ping, you're going to win. So yeah, that's kind of going against what the spirit is of how they design it. So yeah, I think if they can't come up with a solution, they'll probably end up being. This is taking a long time to answer this question,
right?
But I think if they can't come up with a solution, I think there will end up being different language shards.
Yeah, I feel so too. Especially when it comes to like when you can homestead.
Probably region shards, not language shards.
Yeah,
because you have the Portuguese and you have the Brazilians that are not exactly the same. Speak like same language, but
yeah.
I think it'll be language based because that's the issue here. The region really isn't. It's ping is important.
When it comes
it's
to,
important, but
But it'd be cool to see how it manifests, though. I mean, like with let me give an example. Like with homesteading and being able to like make your own areas. I don't think that it's always just going to be orgs building next to each other. It'd be really cool, like if there was a metropolis that just kind of existed on a planet that had people from like the same, like language, right? Because it's easy to trade with somebody who you can speak to and stuff like that, and easy to group with them and everything like that. It'd be just really interesting to see like how things come together because of server meshing creating it. Because even though server meshing will bring us together, humanity will just, like humanity works the way humanity works,
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. You're probably right, Darj. It'll probably end up being
A2 targets.
Ping based, and then if you're out there in comms and someone's speaking French and you only know Spanish, you're just gonna have to deal with it
with a missile. But yeah. Anyway, that's deep into consequences.
And quite tangentially,
yeah,
often consequences as well.
But yeah, so I think that it's probably time we wrap things up for the evening.
Probably is. Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Thanks, guys, for a great show. I hope that everybody in chat enjoyed it, because that's a really, really fun topic, and we don't often get the chance to theory craft a lot, especially on my show, because the other two hosts are not big fans of theory crafting. So this is.
Oh, you're always welcome back if you get the itch to theory craft.
If you get the itch
quite
to
a lot of
imagine.
that here. Yeah.
I love
that's a very naughty way of putting how. No.
What?
I mean, it's like, well, no, you're just saying that's like on Yacht Club they have no imagination. But...
No, that's not what I meant at all. That's not what I meant at all. Don't put words
the
in
way
my mouth
Myre
like that.
put it.
No, on Yacht Club. So we like to report the facts. We're very anti-leak.
in chat.
So from our discussion, we try to make sure that, because we have a lot of people that come to Yacht Club that have very new to the verse, and they're really trying to get facts, and so we're trying not to theory craft too much. And I think that you have to be careful with theory crafting, because a lot of people will make assumptions, or they hear one thing and all of a sudden they build upon that, and they're way off in left field and totally out in outer space in a way that it's not grounded to what's actually going to end up in the game. It's very easy to go that route, and so I think it takes, you have to be careful with it. But I think that if you have critical thinking skills, and you are good upstanding individuals like Myre and Darjanator, you have the ability to,
how dare you,
to think these things through with the previous experience that you have with the lore. We use these different tools that we have available to us, plus our experience with the verse, in order to come up with something that likely is good. And then we try not to also say that that's the way it's going to be, and that we represent CIG, because we don't, and we have no idea if it's going to be that way.
Myre _ CIG definitely does not speak for the company.
Nice. Thanks, guys. That was great.
So as we wrap up, Stim, can you tell us one last time for the audience, where can we find you?
Oh, thank you. Thanks so much, Myre. So Yacht Club BC, which stands for Yacht Club Bar Citizen. Every Wednesday night we do a show that is 7 p.m. Pacific or 10 p.m. Eastern time. And you'll have to work out the UTC, because I'm terrible at that. I believe it's +8 from 7. So 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So 15. Yeah, there we go. So 1,500 hours UTC. And we have a good time. So we talk about the weekly news, as well as what's happening within the community, whether it's screenshots, machinima, 3D printing models. And we spotlight different people in the verse, whether they are streamers. We have lots of guests on every time. We try and have a full cast of 6 people, and there's 3 hosts, so we often have up to 3 guests on the show that drop in and hang out and talk. And we have a great community that shows up really regularly and likes to talk, and we're super inclusive. So it's about coming together, sharing a drink, talking about how our week was, and then covering some really good nerdy chat about this wonderful hobby that we love, which is Star Citizen.
Awesome. All right. So would you like to, roll us out, Darj?
Sure.
because
Okay.
I'm lazy. I'm gonna sit back and just press buttons.
Yeah, I see that. That was very sleek. I'm gonna have to figure something out about that for the YouTube edit. But anyway, I have been Darjanator. Over there has been Myre. In the middle has been our glorious guest, Stim Citizen out of Yacht Club. And this has been yet another episode of the Fortnightly Frontier. Just one of the many podcasts about Star Citizen here on Twitch, but also I was dare to say one of the best podcasts about Star Citizen, especially when we have guests like Stim Citizen on board.
My mom thinks it's okay.
My mom doesn't even know about this. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the verse.